A dying dog hugs his owner before being put to sleep. The veterinarian notices something strange and stops everything. The veterinary clinic fell silent. A German shepherd named Max, barely breathing, lifted his paws and tightly hugged his owner, Andre. It seemed like their final goodbye. Tears streamed down faces, and everyone's heart clenched at the sight. But suddenly, the veterinarian leaned closer, froze, and whispered, "Stop." A spark lit up in her eyes, and in that moment, everything changed. Instead of an ending, a story of unexpected hope began. The veterinary room felt cold and empty. White walls pressed down, lamps buzzed, and on the metal table lay Max, once a strong and proud dog. His thick fur had grown dull, his breathing shallow. Andre sat beside him, gently holding his ear and whispering through tears, "You were the best friend, Max. I'm sorry it's ending this way." The dog's eyes opened slightly dim, but still searching for the familiar voice. With a weak movement, he touched his owner's hand. Andre lowered his head, pressing his forehead against Max's muzzle. In that instant, Max gathered his last strength. He lifted his paws and hugged Andre's neck, as if to say, "Thank you for everything." Andre's shoulders trembled, his tears falling into the fur. The vet and nurse stood silently, unwilling to interrupt their farewell. The syringe with the clear liquid was ready. The end seemed inevitable. But suddenly, the vet frowned. She froze, listening closely to the dog's breathing. Seconds dragged painfully. Then she firmly set the syringe aside and placed her stethoscope to Max's chest. "Wait," she whispered. "Something's not right." Andre looked up in confusion. "What do you mean?" The doctor listened carefully to the heartbeat. It was weak, but not fading. The rhythm was strange, not the final beats of a dying heart, but the pulse of struggle. "I can't go through with this," she said firmly. "We need to check something else. Maybe this isn't the end." A spark of hope flickered in Andre's chest. Just a minute ago, he'd been preparing for the worst goodbye. His hands still trembled, his throat tight with grief. But the veterinarian, Olga Sergeyevna, didn't take her eyes off the stethoscope. "The heart isn't giving up," she said finally. "It's unstable, but this doesn't look like death. The body is fighting." "But you said he was dying," Andre's voice cracked. "It looked that way," she nodded. "But I want to check something quickly." Turning to the nurse, she ordered, "Bring me a thermometer and his file." The nurse hurried off while Olga leaned over Max. The dog gave a heavy sigh. His chest barely moved. Andre covered his paw with his hand. "Hang on, buddy," he whispered. "You're strong. You can do this." When the thermometer beeped, Olga frowned. Temperature's too low, but not because of organ failure. This could be an infection. Or even poisoning. Poisoning? Andre's head snapped up. "It's possible," she said seriously. "If that's the case, there's still a chance." "But he hasn't eaten anything except his usual food," Andre said, trying to remember. Then he recalled how a few days ago, Max suddenly refused to eat and just lay there, as if all his strength had left him. "I thought it was his age." "You did the right thing bringing him here," Olga said gently. "But it seems we're not dealing with old age. If this is an infection, we must act fast." The nurse set up and for. The metal stand rattled as clear drops began to flow through the tube. Max whimpered softly but didn't resist, as if he understood this was a fight for his life. "We'll start with a broad-spectrum antibiotic," Olga said decisively. No time to wait for tests. Andrei watched, his heart torn between fear and fragile hope. He wanted so badly to believe fate hadn't written the final line yet. Time passed painfully slowly. The clock ticked rhythmically on the wall, marking every second. Andrei sat on a bench outside the room, his fingers clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The image of Max hugging him replayed over and over in his mind the moment he thought everything was over. An hour passed. Then another. The vet came out several times, checking papers, consulting the nurse. Andrei didn't dare ask questions. He just waited. Finally, near midnight, Olga appeared in the hallway. Her face was tired, but her eyes were soft. She sat beside him. "He's stable," she said quietly. "But the next few hours are critical. If his body responds to the antibiotics, he has a chance." Andrei covered his face with his hand and let out a broken breath. "Thank you, for not giving up." Olga smiled faintly. "He wasn't ready to say goodbye. And neither were you." Andrei nodded, feeling a cautious hope fill his chest. He decided he would stay there, at the door, for as long as needed. The night stretched endlessly. The corridor was quiet, only the steady hum of medical machines behind the wall. Exhausted, Andrei rested his head on his hands but refused to fall asleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Max's face, loyal, tired, but still alive. At dawn, the door opened. Olga stood there, her face just as weary but now lit with a faint smile. "You should come in," she said softly. "He's awake." Andrei leapt to his feet, his heart pounding. He stepped into the room and froze. On a clean blanket lay Max. His eyes were open, and his tail gently thumped against the table. "Max," Andrei whispered, reaching out. The dog lifted his head and pressed his muzzle into his palm. And in that moment, Andrei knew this wasn't the end. He took a step closer, his knees trembling. Max lay quietly, the fur dripping steadily. His eyes were cloudy but full of recognition. When he saw Andrei, his tail moved slightly. "Hey, buddy," Andrei whispered, sitting beside him. He placed his hand on Max's head, and the dog sighed softly, closing his eyes. Olga stood nearby, checking the monitors. Her voice was calm but warm. "He's responding. That's a good sign. But it's still early to relax." Andrei nodded, afraid even to breathe too loudly. Time crawled. Every tick of the clock echoed in his heart. He remembered how Max came into his life, a tiny ball of fur he carried home in his hands. He never imagined how many years of joy and trials they share. Now he prayed for just a little more time. Max opened his eyes and whimpered softly. Andrei leaned closer. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." The dog moved his paw slightly, touching Andrei's hand as if he understood every word. Olga met Andrei's gaze seriously. "We must be prepared for anything. His body is weak. But the antibiotics are working. Let's see how he reacts." "I'll stay with him as long as it takes," Andrei said firmly. She nodded. "That'll be the best medicine for him." The night passed more calmly. Andrei barely moved, sometimes stroking Max's head. Memories filled his mind: winter walks in the forest, Max fetching sticks from the snow, guarding the house while Andrei was away. Each memory was soaked in gratitude and pain. "You gave me everything," Andrei whispered. "And I'm not ready to lose you." Max sighed, lifted his head, and looked at him, tired but alive. In that gaze, Andre read one simple thing: I'm trying, for you. Hours passed. Outside, dawn painted the sky gold. Max's breathing steadied. His tail moved slightly. Look, Olga said, leaning toward the monitor. His blood pressure is stabilizing. That's incredibly fast. Andre felt warmth flood his chest. He stroked Max's muzzle and whispered, "Good boy. I'm so proud of you." Max stretched weakly and placed his paw on Andre's hand again. Andre realized this wasn't a goodbye. It was a promise. They would keep fighting. Olga sighed softly. You know, sometimes animals are stronger than we think. The love of their owner gives them strength. Andre looked at her, his eyes wet. I don't know what comes next, he said quietly, but I want to let him go through it alone. Morning finally arrived. The clinic, once cold and grim, now felt filled with light. It was quiet, not lifeless, but peaceful, full of hope. For the first time in a long while, Andre's heart beat not with fear, but with faith that miracles are possible. Days passed. Max's condition continued to improve. His breathing grew steady, his eyes clear, his fur regained its shine. The vet cautioned, there could still be setbacks. Andre stayed by his side, listening to every breath through the nights. One stormy evening, Max whimpered and struggled to stand. Andre rushed to help. The dog wobbled, but stood on his feet and took a step toward him, tail trembling, wagging proudly for the first time. Andre fell to his knees, hugging Max tightly. That's it, you're back. I knew you'd make it. Tears ran down his face, tears of joy this time. Olga entered, stopped at the door, and smiled in relief. He's made the turning point, she said softly. Now it's all about recovery. I'll do everything to help him, Andre said, stroking Max's neck. The dog sighed deeply and rested his head on his owner's shoulder. And in that moment, Andre knew he truly had come back. A week later, Max was walking confidently around the clinic. The nurses called him the real hero. Each day, Andre brought his favorite toy, an old ball, and talked to him for hours. Then one morning, Olga called Andre into her office. Good news, she said, opening Max's file. The infection's gone. He just needs rest now. Your dog did the impossible. Andre covered his face, holding back tears. Thank you. If not for you. She gently interrupted. If not for both of you. He fought, and you gave him something to fight for. When the day of discharge came, Andre was as nervous as if it were his first time taking Max home. The door opened, and Max walked out a little unsteady, but proud, head held high. His tail wagged slowly but surely. People in the clinic stopped and watched. Some even applauded. Max paused for a moment and looked at Andre. In his eyes shone the words, "We did it." Outside, the spring air was fresh. Trees were budding, and the sky was clear after the rain. Andre knelt, hugged Max, and whispered, I thought I was losing you, but now I know we still have time. Max gave a quiet, contented growl and pressed his muzzle into Andre's shoulder. They walked home slowly but steadily, side by side, just like always. For Andre, it wasn't just a walk, it was a return to life. Now he knew, every moment with a loyal friend is priceless, and no force on earth can break their bond.